Time bomb on the Lower Rhine. NATO is using Russia's invasion of Ukraine to legitimize a series of decisions and actions that are dangerously increasing international and internal conflicts for societies in Europe. In the propaganda war against pacifism, the demand for diplomacy is presented as naive support for Putin. This propaganda against the peace movement will increase in the context of the demonstration on October 3 in Berlin, by Bernhard Trautvetter. NATO is using the narrative developed by the military lobby of an imperialist attack by Russia on Ukraine, which will be followed by more if NATO does not stop Russia, to justify its new strategic concept. This involves a sharp increase in military budgets and the establishment of a so-called rapid reaction force in the Baltics, the deployment of combat units or battlegroups to Eastern European NATO states, as well as the strengthening of NATO's so-called eastern flank and the increase of its maneuver activities. Quote from NATO's so-called strategic concept of 2022, "The Russian Federation's war of aggression against Ukraine has shattered peace and severely changed our security environment. Its brutal and illegal invasion, its repeated violations of international humanitarian law, and its heinous attacks and atrocities have caused untold suffering and horrific devastation. A strong, independent Ukraine is essential for the stability of the Euro-Atlantic area." NATO is ignoring the legal violation of the coup in favor of a pro-NATO government in Kiev in February 2014, and it is distracting from the real reason for Russia's invasion, which NATO Secretary General Stoltenberg revealed in the EU Parliament in September 2023. After the US and NATO refused to declare that Ukraine would remain neutral, Russia decided to invade in order to prevent this huge country with a common land border of 2,300 kilometers from joining the opposing military bloc. Thus, NATO's illegal eastward expansion was the destruction of the European peace order. Kalkar-Uedem is one of the hotspots. The rapidly growing dual NATO and Bundeswehr site in Kalkar-Uedem, with the Combined Air Operations Center and the Air Force's 24-hour command post, will benefit with at least 100 million euros from the special fund that Chancellor Scholz presented in his Zeitenwende speech in February 2022. By 2031, more than 150 million euros will be invested in the infrastructure. Further construction measures are also being planned, said General Poschwada, according to the Rheinische Post. In this context, Poschwada explained, Zeitenwende does not just mean 100 billion for new equipment. The NATO allies are providing additional weapon systems. In an emergency, and that means in a war, all of this would be coordinated and planned in Kalkar, according to the NRZ on January 31, 2023. Former Federal President Heinemann had a different understanding of emergency. He explained that this was the peace in which we all have to prove ourselves. The airspace for whose military monitoring and control Kalkar-Uedem is responsible extends at least from Iceland to the Baltic states and from Norway to the Alps. But here too there is a task that goes far beyond the original. In 2020, Minister Kramp-Karrenbauer commissioned the Air and Space Operations Center, ASOCS, the Space Command. Kalkar-Uedem is one of the hotspots where the military invests large sums of taxpayers' money in the infrastructure for destruction and killing. This is partly because the high-tech war in the rocket and drone age is fought primarily in the airspace. The strategy-forged Joint Air Power Competence Center Kalkar is preparing plans for this. Their concrete plans for military operations on the battlefield further increase the military importance of the Air Control Center for the operational command of the Air Force. High-tech warfare accelerates the flow of data. It increases the pressure to make decisions in ever shorter time horizons. It has a decisive influence on the possible course of military operations. The options extend to the last war of civilization, the thermonuclear war in the 21st century. According to the website of the Society for Security Policy, the Air Operations Center works closely with a geo-center that also provides three-dimensional regional data for the approach and attack of missiles that are in the nuclear war.